And despite a bad Fed chairman, a guy that has we call him too late. He's too late. Jerome, too late, pal. He's too late. He wasn't too late before the Democrats on the election, then he was too.
This is no longer buried in policy papers. The interest bill is now the story. 4 years ago, interest cost about $350 billion. Now it is over $1 trillion. The line shot almost straight up. Zoom out, and the trend is clear. Roughly $220 billion in 2000, more than $1 trillion today. The obvious giants are Social Security and Medicare, but interest has quietly climbed past defense and past almost everything else in the budget. At zero rates, borrowing looked cheap, then rates rose. The old bill came due. The dollar still sits at the center of the system. Now, we can finally see what that privilege costs. The math is not complicated. If borrowing costs stay above growth long enough, debt compounds faster than the economy can outrun it.
The reason why the term premium has increased, as you know, over the course of this year. Although, the rates have been going up and down lately. They're almost back to where they were before the election.
We saw this before. In 1991, interest peaked as a share of GDP. A 90s boom rescued the system. That cushion is gone. The Fed is watching. The clock is running. There is no clean exit. By 2034, interest is projected at $1.7 trillion. Bigger deficits mean more borrowing. More borrowing means more interest. Every interest dollar is a dollar not spent on roads, schools, or defense. Debt works like a conveyor belt. Bonds mature, then they must be sold again. The scary part is the timing. Next year alone, roughly $9 trillion has to be refinanced. Then comes the reset. Today's higher rates get locked into the interest bill. Treasury borrowed short when money was cheap. That saved cash, but makes today's reset faster.
Back there. So why are rates going up? It has to be something else. It must be, an expectation of higher growth or something like that. And that's a lot of what's been going on. I mean, you saw a big move, toward the end.
We think somehow we can grow out of a World War levels of debt and deficits. But I believe we crossed the Rubicon on growing out of this.
That is the trap. Cheap debt resetting at expensive rates with no easy exit. Foreign central banks used to absorb more of it. China's holdings are down roughly 45% from the peak, leaving domestic buyers to demand higher yields. Auctions still clear, but the cushion is thinner. One weak sale can move yields. Here is the loop. Higher interest widens the deficit. Bigger deficits mean more borrowing. More borrowing feeds interest again.
Let me make sure I understand. This bill, you admit, will increase the deficit by $2.4 trillion, but you think there will be another bill and another set of agreements that somehow materialize.
Here is the uncomfortable part. The Fed controls the short rate. It cannot fix the deficit. Reserve currencies usually hollow out from within. Britain is the precedent. After World War I, debt service ate roughly 40% of tax revenue. They defended the pound with high rates and lost reserve status anyway.
Undermine the reserve currency status, our global leadership, and most importantly, as a father of 3 children, and I believe my Democrat colleagues feel.
On the surface, these shifts look geopolitical. Underneath, they are usually balance sheet events. The dollar remains dominant, but the load grows heavier every year.
Million Americans. My question to you is what happens next? Because, the data shows that when people lose their health insurance, uncompensated care goes up. That's the issue with rural hospitals. Medical debt goes up, people delay care, and they ration their medicine.
By 2031, interest is set to exceed defense and veterans benefits combined. Then it starts closing in on Medicare. Zoom out and the picture is simple. The dollar still dominates. The threat is not China or crypto, it is interest. Forget the headlines, watch the interest line. Whoever buys the debt decides what happens next.